If you're a business owner who's constantly having to train and retrain new employees, or maybe new hires aren't sticking around past a month, or maybe they just don't understand the values or mission of your company itself, well, it's probably due to a substandard onboarding process. See, a lot of companies view onboarding as paperwork, orientation, and job shadowing for about a week. But in this video, we're going to go over how to turn your onboarding into a system that can reliably and repeatedly turn new employees into well-trained, focused, and dedicated employees that can do the job that you hired them to do. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around and let's get right into it. Before we get started, my name is Carter Doyle. I served in the military for 12 years as an Army infantry officer, got out, started, grew, and sold my own company, and now I help businesses just like yours improve their training systems to see bigger margins faster. If that's something you're interested in, check out the link in the description down below. We'd love to help you out. Now let's get into the video. Let's start out by defining what exactly we're going to be building. In this video, we're going to be building a 10-step onboarding system that you can repeat for every new hire within that position. A lot of these steps are going to be preparatory work before the new employee even shows up. But the good news is once you've done this system and set it up and established it, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of cyclically do it for every new hire that comes in to fill that specific position. So let's go ahead and jump right in with step number one. Step number one is going to be business needs. And in this, I want you to ask 3 questions. Why does this role exist? What problem does it solve? And what breaks if this fails? So let's go ahead and go through all 3 of those and kind of flesh them out a little bit. Now, all 3 of these questions are interconnected, but as we break them apart, you can see how they fully answer the business needs as a whole. So starting out with why the role exists. So the role might be cashier. So why does the role exist? The role exists so that they're able to complete transactions for customers that are coming in, as well as be able to handle any initial questions that the customers might have when entering the store. Next would be, what problem does it solve? Well, the problem is going to be transactions aren't going to be able to be completed. The problem it solves is that your business can't function unless someone is at the till able to complete the transactions. Now, your manager or the store owner or someone else could be able to come in and fill that role and be able to come over to the register and do the transactions and everything else, but that's taking them away from other positions, which again kind of rolls into that third question of what breaks if it fails? Well, there's not someone who's able to man the till. There's someone who's having to take away from their other responsibilities to fill in for that position, and management isn't able to actually focus on a holistic look of the whole company or the store or whatever other duties they have, and they're having to constantly come back to do this singular thing. So the business needs are pretty important in this aspect because you need to know internally what exactly the position that you're hiring for is actually going to be solving, so that way you can convey that to the person during the onboarding process. Step number 2 in the system is going to be role definition. Now, this might seem like, hey, they know what they were hired for. I know what they were hired for. That's, pretty self-explanatory. But let me actually dig into this a little bit more, and I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. The 3 things I want you to think about here are going to be, what does good performance look like? Next is going to be determining what 80 to 90% of competence of this job looks like. Now, I understand that every new employee, you want them to be 100% trained by the time they're done. But let's actually be a little more realistic, because on the job training, just time and reps and things like that, it's going to fill in that remaining 10 to 20%. So let's go ahead and define what 80 to 90% of mastery of that job looks like. So that way, by the end of onboarding, you can know that they've either reached those benchmarks or they haven't. And the last one's going to be clear outcomes, not vague duties. A lot of companies end up just relying on vague duties of, yeah, you're going to man the till, or you're going to sweep the floors, or you're going to restock the shelves. Those are duties, but they're not really outcome driven. And we want to get more towards outcomes, because just doing a small duty is a portion of it, but you want them to know what the end result of them doing their job is going to be, which is also going to be a very good way of telling them what good looks like. So again, these are all 3 things that kind of envelop the same aspect of role definition, but we really need to flesh this out. And all of this is still prior to you starting the onboarding itself. This is the preparatory work. This is, like we talked about, the homework of the initial sections of the onboarding system that we're building right here. Step number 3 in the system is going to be entry gate. Now, this is where you're going to verify credentials or minimum requirements that are needed to do this job. As much as we might like to rely on the hiring team to do all the right vetting and everything else, there is just a chance that some people lied, or maybe their credentials are out of date, or whatever it may be. So this is the stage that we're going to actually verify that they have all the credentials or the requirements or the baseline, whatever it is, to do the job you hired them for. So have them bring in a copy of the certificates or the degree or the training vouchers or whatever those are. If they're not able to produce those documents, this is where the training stops and you let them know, hey, sorry, you're no longer able to fulfill this role, so we're going to have to let you go. No harm, no foul. A little frustrating because you lost all the time, but you haven't invested a lot of time, energy, effort, and money and resources into this new employee when they weren't actually qualified to do the job that you were hired to do. Step number 4 is going to be onboarding design. Now, what this is going to look like at the end is a physical product that you can hand to the new hire. On this physical product, it's going to have a few things. The first is going to be a timeline. This is going to be from day 1 until independence, and it should be phrased something like that. End, independence, completion, certified, trained, whatever it is, but it should have a definitive end. That's the important part, is that this isn't ambiguous. This isn't a, hey, welcome to the team, shadow him for a little bit, but also, you're going to be kind of still being watched for a little bit or whatever else. Now, they know they're going to have a manager and they know there's still people going to be watching them, but they should have an idea of how long the onboarding process is going to take and when it's definitively over. And that should be well defined on a piece of paper that you have pre-made that has every single step, every day of the topic that's going to be covered each of those days with a definitive end laid out explicitly. Now, also on this should be a clear definition of who owns and who will be conducting the onboarding training itself. Now, you might just know that, hey, that's whoever does this, or hey, it's me, I'm the one doing this, but they might not necessarily know that. They might just think that you're the person who's bringing them on, or you're the one who's going to show them around. So you should clearly have that, again, on that piece of paper with whatever appropriate contact information as well. If the only way you want to be contacted is by phone or email or on Teams or Slack or whatever it is, that should be on there as well. And it should let them know that if there's any issues or they're maybe going to be late one day, whatever else, this is who to reach out to. And this is how the method of communication that they will use to communicate with that person. Another key aspect about this is make sure that whoever that person is that's going to be conducting the training or their information is being given out, make sure they know that they are that person. It may seem like a silly thing. Of course they would know, but maybe they just got put in that position and they didn't know that someone else was hired on and they're getting a random call at 8:30 in the morning. They don't answer the question or they don't answer the phone call and then they wonder why the new hire hasn't shown up. So make sure you actually let the person who's going to be conducting the training know that your information is going to be given out and that it is a clear handoff of this is now your person to train for the onboarding throughout this process. So let's go back to the timeline for just 1 second. Now, a lot of people get hung up on it needs to be a week. I don't know why, but a week is just like a clean time frame. But a lot of companies get hung up on job training needs to be done, onboarding needs to be done within a week. There's really no reason for that. However long it takes is however long it takes. Because remember, what we're trying to prevent is retraining, is people leaving, is people not understanding the mission, not understanding the company. So whatever the time frame is, hey, for some companies, it might just be like 2 days, and that's okay if you're able to completely get them trained and through the whole process. For other companies, it might take a week. Okay, that's fine. Or for others, it might take a month. Whatever that amount of time is, be okay with that and build it into the timeline. Again, once again, and I'll keep saying it, the purpose of an onboarding system is not to get them through to just check the boxes so you can have them on the line doing the job. The purpose of an onboarding system is to have a fully trained, dedicated, and focused employee who's able to do the job you hired them to do. So whatever the time frame is, great. Stick with it and don't try to rush or condense the process. Now, that doesn't mean don't optimize after a few iterations, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So day 1, let's go over kind of what that should roughly look like. Day 1 is going to be a lot of administrative information, a lot of administrative paperwork, kind of a tour of the facility, maybe introducing a few of the key people. But what we're not going to try to do is cram everything they need to know for the whole job on day 1. Day 1 should be, I don't want to say light, but it should be informative for the basics of what they're going to be learning going forward. So this should be kind of like we talked about, an orientation of the building, basic introductions of who the key people that they're going to be interacting with, and any kind of legal paperwork, documents, whatever else that they need to complete. Once that's done, if you still have some time and they're not burnt out just yet, then you can start getting into some outlines. Now, what I mean by outlines is this is where you're going to be talking about what they're going to be learning. You're not necessarily going to be teaching them anything yet. You're just giving them a framework and walking them through that timeline, that physical piece of paper or digital, whatever it is. I recommend physical. Whatever the next period of time for the onboarding is going to be. You're going to talk them through it, lay out, hey, tomorrow, we're going to start right at 9, go till noon. You got an hour lunch break, and then we're going to go until 5 o'clock. And these are the blocks and these are the sections and segments that we're going to be going over for that day and kind of walk them through so they have an idea of what they're actually getting into and they can just mentally prepare for the training that's going to be coming up. Another thing to go over with them is, what does independence look like? So that could be, once we're done with this onboarding process, you're going to get a nice firm handshake and you passed off to your manager. And that could be good enough. Or it could be, when we're done with all of this, you'll get this certificate, or you're going to go out front and you're going to meet the manager, or you're going to meet the owner, or we're going to take your picture, or, we're going to bring you your favorite dessert. Whatever your method of signaling this is the completion of the onboarding process, let them know that at the beginning. If nothing else, it gives them something to look forward to, and it lets them know that when that happens, you're going to reiterate this when it actually happens, but they have an idea of, okay, this is when I know that I'm done with my training and I've started the real actual job. All right, so I know we're on step 4, but this is going to be the last step that's done before the actual employee shows up. So this is all still preliminary before they show up, stuff that you're going to be doing. And part of that is going to be preparing whatever materials, SOPs, binders, whatever else before they show up. So this is the time where all the legwork that needs to be done before someone gets there is done. Because from here on out, there's no improvising. This is a system. We're establishing a system. Improving can be great, and it's a good adaptable skill, but it's not a method that we want to rely on when it comes to building a system and training people. Improv can be, Bill isn't in today, so actually we're going to go over and you're going to meet your next line supervisor, who is Sally. That's a good example of improvising. What it shouldn't be is, I know I need to teach them how to build the widget. I haven't really studied it, but I've done it for all these years, so I'll figure it out and we'll just talk through it. That's not a system. That's flying off the seat of your pants, and that's how you get people who have confusion. So this is where we stop all of the guesswork. We take all of that out, and we're building a true system here that people can repeat. And let's say that you're sick that day, someone else can walk in. If there's a true laid out process, they can fall in right on wherever they're supposed to teach and walk them through, whether it's reading, whether it's reviewing the notes, showing the pictures, whatever it is. So again, I want to make it very clear, improvisation is the way of the past. We're getting rid of that, and we're getting to solid steps, getting to flip books, we're getting to printouts, SOPs, and a true script to train people on the job they're going to be preparing for. Next is going to be step 5, which is context setting. This is going to be the first day where the new employee actually shows up. So this is going to be kind of fleshing out more of what that day 1 should really involve and what it shouldn't involve as well. So context setting, what that's going to mean is you're laying the table of the environment that they're walking into. So you're going to repeat the job description that they're going to be doing. So when they walk in, shake hands, everything else, and then say to them the job that you hired them to do. They might look at you like you're crazy, but I still want you to do it because you're confirming to them this is the job you're going to be doing, and this is kind of the context in which we're going to be talking about the training that's going to be going on. I also want you to go over the business values and the business mission here as well. You're going to be repeating these two quite a few times throughout the whole process of onboarding. I want you to keep saying your business mission and the values and mission. Keep repeating them. Don't expect someone to just know them, have done the research, or you say it one time and they just know it and they're going to start displaying it when they show up to work. Nope, we're going to go for at least 7 times throughout the course of onboarding. You're going to be repeating the mission and the values of the company that they're joining. Also, you're going to talk about how this role fits into the business. Now, if it's an entry-level job, they may not pay attention or they may forget, and that's okay. Hopefully they do remember it. But whatever the job position is, you're still going to describe the importance of the role you're bringing them on and how it affects other aspects of the company, their coworkers, the business, the larger structure, things like that. I want you to lay these out, and I don't want you to be vague about these too. I want you to spend some time. You've already done your notes, so I want you to just read them off or display them, or as you're going around doing the next few steps, you're talking through how their job is important and how it affects other aspects of the job and their coworkers. All right, so I don't want you to get confused here, because the next thing is going to be introductions, responsibilities, and expectations. This is going to be, spend a good amount of time on going over what these are. The introduction should be pretty thorough. It should be who the coworkers are, who their management system is, who their supervisors are, where HR is, where the boss's office is. He's going to be going through and actually introducing them, whether it's a handshake or a picture, but preferably it's a handshake and a face-to-face, introducing them to the people they're going to be working with and for. Responsibilities and expectations, these are when you're going to start going through, and again, you're flushing out more of what the job that you're bringing on to do is and how it's going to be carried out on a day-to-day level. So the responsibilities and expectations, again, is a full block that you're going to be going over and talking through what exactly is going to be expected and what, again, success looks like. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not rush into job execution while you're doing orientation and paperwork. Job execution is its own section. They need to understand the place where they're working before they understand what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be doing it. So you need to break these apart. Job expectations is going to be a whole other training section. So don't try to combine them into the introductions. If that means you have to walk around the warehouse 4 times, because the first time you're introducing, second time you're orienting, third time you're doing your expectations, and the fourth time you're kind of verifying, that's fine. Get your steps in for the day. That's okay. Don't try to combine these things. You should break these out. And again, because you're going back to that timetable you've built out day to day, they'll have an idea of what to expect as well. But just again, don't combine these. These need to be separate tasks. Another very important aspect of this is who owns what and why. So what do I mean by that? Let's go through it. So who owns what and why can be broken down into, if something goes wrong, whose responsibility is it to fix it? We're using kind of general terms here, but that's the basic way of thinking about it. So, if you spill a drink on the floor, who do you go to get that resolved? Do you go to the manager, or is it your responsibility to clean up that kind of mess? Or let's say you filed a piece of paperwork incorrectly. Do you go to your manager? Do you go to HR? Do you go to the owner? Or is it on you, the new hire, to correct those mistakes? So this is another good time when we're fleshing out responsibilities, expectations, to really be specific. So as you're in introductions, you're explaining who this person is and their role, and if this issue comes up, you go to them for this resolution. This shouldn't be something that they just learn after weeks of being there or asking their coworkers. This is a very important aspect, because otherwise your manager is going to get either flooded with questions or no questions going to come up when they should have been asking. So this is not something you want to assume. This isn't something you want to just have them learn after 2 weeks of being there. You want to really delve into the details on if this, then that. So if X issue happens, Y is your response. Whether that's, hey, you take care of it, and we're going to train you on how to take care of those things, or you go to this person and let them know so that they can resolve that issue. And the last point for context setting is this is when you're going to hand off all products. This is when you hand off the actual calendar, telling them the schedule for the onboarding process. This is when you're going to hand them any SOPs. This is when you're going to hand them any, paperwork that needs to be filled out, legal documents, anything that they're going to need for the upcoming week or for the job itself. This is when you're going to actually hand it to them. Not necessarily when you're going to train them on it, but this is when you're going to start handing it to them and walk them through kind of what exactly you are giving them. Some of these products are going to be, hey, this is only going to be useful for this onboarding process. So they have an idea and they're probably going to throw away at the end, but they can start looking at it. Or when you hand them an SOP or, any kind of other documents like that, let them know, keep this with you. This is an important document. Carry this around with you. Find a bookshelf in your office to put this. Moving on to step 6 of the onboarding system, which is delivery techniques. Now, this is what's really going to set you apart from every other company's onboarding process. So I really want you to pay attention to this section, watch it back, take notes, ask questions, whatever you need to. But this is really what's going to set you apart. And here's the basics of it. It's going to go modules, blocks, skills transfer loop. I'll say it again. Modules, blocks, skills transfer loop. We're going to go through each one of those, but I just want to give you a brief overview of what this is so that way you have an idea of what we're going to be getting into. Modules is going to be the overarching topic that you're going to be talking about during this section of training. And all of these modules should be what's listed on that calendar that we keep talking about. And you can have multiple of these modules on a certain day, but don't rush and don't try to combine. So let's go through what I mean by it. A module is the overarching topic you're going to be talking about. So an example is going to be machines. So we're going to talk about machines. That's this modules. Then you're going to go into blocks. This is where you're going to go through and describe in detail all the different machines you'll be working with. So let's just throw out a few examples. Let's just say the printer. So the big topic is going to be the module is going to be machines, and then you're going to go through the printer machine, give all the information you can about it, examples of how to use it, troubleshoots, experiences, what breaks down, who to go to if it breaks down. I think you understand what I'm saying with that. Let's say the next is like the punch card machine. I know we haven't used those in a long time, but like the clock in punch machine. So how to use it, where your storage punch card goes, all those kinds of things. We don't want to combine machines, and we don't want to combine lessons between machines too. So it's each block is going to be a specific machine that you're going to be going over. So that's where the blocks come in. Now we're going to get into the really important portion of this, which is the skills transfer loop. The skills transfer loop is going to go like this. You show and you explain, you being the person who is leading the instruction. So step one is you show and you explain. Step two, you show, they explain. Step three, they do and explain. Step four is they do, you observe. And then step five is they do and you observe and critique. So we're going to go through those one more time. It's you show and explain. You show, they explain. They do and explain. They do, you observe. They do, you critique. So let's go through and kind of explain why that's so important and why doing this is going to be such a game changer compared to every other person's onboarding training. The biggest reason why this is going to set you apart from everyone else's onboarding training is just raw repetitions. Job shadowing is fine and it can work if someone's able to learn that way. However, hands-on is generally how people work, and it's how they're going to work out the problems that they're going to have down the road as well. So if you're there watching them do it, you're able to correct them on the spot and they can learn it right the first time. So we're going to go through each one again and just kind of talk about it a little bit, but hopefully you kind of understand where this is going and you can apply this as well. So the first one again is you show and explain. This can take as long as it needs to, but you should be thorough in explaining all the important aspects. Now, here's not when you're repeating the, steps of who you go to get it repaired or anything like that. This is just how to do the process itself. So you're showing how to properly do it and explaining the steps that you're doing. The next is you're doing it still and they're explaining it. So you're going to do the step and they're going to say back to you what you just did and why. Next, they're going to be actually doing it and explaining it as well. You're still present watching them, but you're not giving any feedback yet unless they completely miss something. But at the end of them doing it, that's when you're going to give the feedback. Then you're going to do it again where it's just no input from you at all. They do it. They don't have to describe it this time. They're just doing it and you're observing, and then they're going to do it again. And at the end of that time is when you're going to give all the critiques. That's when you're going to give the nuances. That's when you're going to give the extra inputs. That's when you're going to give the years of experience that you've learned and kind of help them understand kind of more of the nuance, because they have a solid foundation of what right looks like and the basics of what right looks like. This is when you can start giving the really good experience in depth, like the little, hey, sometimes these wires get a little weird, so be sure to click them together 3 times, and sometimes that fixes it. That's when you're really kind of diving into explaining the nuances and kind of really getting them up to speed. Something else to keep in mind is that by the end of your training, like we've talked about, they should be at the 80 to 90% competency for that job. So make sure when you're building these modules and the blocks, they all in totality come out to that 80-90%. Make sure you're being very explicit and very deliberate on training them on all aspects of the job. If at the end of all the onboarding, after a few iterations, you see that there's constantly this area, this gap that's not being taught, well, then this is where you start creating that module, blocks, and the skills transfer loop for that aspect, or maybe just revising it a little bit to be able to cover those aspects that aren't being hit. All right, now we're on to step 7, which is validation. Now, what I mean by this is not telling them they're doing a great job or patting them on the back. This is validating that they have learned and picked up what you've taught them. The big thing here is make sure you're doing this after each critical module. Some of these modules are very important, but not necessarily something you need to check to make sure they understand. And that just comes with time and experience, learning the distinction between those two. And a check after critical modules can be as simple as, hey, they're going to go do it again and you're observing. And it can just be like a, hey, good job, you did it. Or, if they just missed one little thing, that's when you come in and say, good job. However, don't forget that you're supposed to press this button before this button, things like that. Another thing to keep in mind for the validation is this should be after a certain amount of time. This shouldn't necessarily be the same day unless you learn something at the beginning of the day and then you're validating they still remember it at the end of the day, but preferably it's the next day, maybe 2 days later, but it shouldn't be immediately afterwards because they could have just had a really good memory or a really good day or something like that and they could just pump it out. But you want to verify that over time, when it's not really on their mind anymore and you quiz them on it or you have them demonstrate that they still remember it and they've retained it, that they can still actually perform the task correctly. This is also key. Demonstration over exposure. Demonstration over exposure. What I mean by that is have them actually display that they can do the thing, have them do the thing and not just tell you how they did the thing or have them watch you or someone else doing the thing. Hands-on, actually doing it is much more important than just exposure. Also, have them summarize things back to you. You don't have to have them memorize whole paragraphs or anything like that, but for other tasks that maybe you're not able to physically go do again, or maybe you don't necessarily need them to go physically do again, have them summarize it in their words back. Don't try to lead them along. You know, if they forget one or two things and they're smaller things, that's okay. But in their own words, have them summarize it and feed it back to you. And you either have a mental yes or, hey, let's go back over that again. Number 8 is reinforcement. This is where you're going to reinforce the values and the mission and the importance and the role of their job. This is going to be an intentional thing. This isn't going to be a, hey, we talked about it day one, and I've kind of said it a couple times every now and then, every couple of days or whatever it is. Nope, you're going to be reinforcing that they understand that this is the job they're stepping into, this is the culture they're stepping into, and this is the profession they're stepping into. So it's going to be a deliberate reinforcement of who we are, what we do, what your job is, and the role that they're stepping into. Number 9 of the onboarding system is the system feedback loop. Now, what's so impressive about this training system is that it's actually a two-way training system. You're training them on the modules, the blocks, the information that needs to be conveyed, who you are, what your mission is, what your values are, but they're actually training you as well. While you're going through this onboarding system, you, the person actually conducting the onboarding, should be taking notes. And the notes should be, what are people struggling with? Where are the hangups? Where are the gaps? Where are the issues that are arising that people aren't understanding, or maybe you have to explain it several times. You have to go out of your way to really convey what you're trying to say. Write all that stuff down. And then at the end, you can go back and update the training system itself. Maybe there's a whole module you left out because of a typo, or maybe it's a new piece of equipment, or it's a new training system, or whatever it is. Maybe there's a block of instruction that needs some refinement. You're going to be taking all these notes so that at the end of all of this, you can go back and it's a self-correcting, self-training loop that you can kind of continually improve as you keep going. And if you'd like some help finding out what exactly some of those metrics should be or some of the things you should be looking for your specific industry or field, feel free to reach out to me, send me an email, leave me a comment, whatever it is. I'd love to reach out and kind of help you design what those metrics are so you can help improve this system to make it the best onboarding system you can. So feel free to reach out. Would love to help you out. And finally is step 10, onboarding complete. After the new hire has displayed all abilities to do the job, they've completed all the modules, they've shown that they are a good fit for your company, they understand the values, the mission, and the team they're going to be working with, this is where there should be a deliberate handoff between the onboarding team and the direct supervisor, manager, or just kind of a send-off if there's not necessarily a manager for that position. This is where you're going to, one final time, reiterate the independent expectations of performance. And you've probably already picked all that up because you've done a great job doing the onboarding from this system that we're doing now. But it's just a final send off of congratulations, welcome to the team. Once again, these are the expectations, and this is what you're expected to be doing solo, as far as a team, who to report to, just kind of a final, just good send off moment. Well, congratulations. We've just finished going through all 10 steps of creating your perfect onboarding system. If you stick to this, you're going to see a noticeable difference in the quality and the caliber of the candidates and the new hires you're bringing onto the team. It's going to be a reliable, repeatable system that you can implement right now to make sure you're getting well-trained, dedicated, and focused employees. So thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if there's any more videos you'd like to see in the future. But again, thank you so much. Be good. God bless. And I'll see you in the next one.